Hi, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to my webinar. I'm so excited to have all of you here with me this afternoon. So as what Teacher Mandy said, this webinar is all about preparing students for 21st century learning, a focus on approaches to teaching and learning. I'm Alfonso Mangubat, and I'm currently the IB Diploma Program Coordinator of the school. I've been teaching for 9 years already, and since 2015, I've been with Keys School Manila. So let's get started. Okay. So just like in any of my presentations, I always like to start off with a question. And if you look at your screens right now, this is the question that we hope that we hope to explore for the next 20 minutes or so. So the question really that we're looking at today is, are we teachers of content or are we teachers of skill? Um, when we take this moment to think about the difference between the two and also figure out also the implications of being a teacher of content or being a teacher of skill. So I'll give you a few seconds to think about the implications of the former and the latter. Now, if you chose the former, then you're on your way to preparing students for learning in the 21st century. So to start off, why do we need to teach skills? This was a report done by the World Economic Forum titled The Future of Jobs Report. The World Economic Forum surveyed companies and asked what skills they require from fresh graduates. Based on the results of this survey, there were these identified skills by many employers in 2015. The researchers then projected the skills needed by the employers after 5 years. So this year right now. Okay? The truth of the matter is that skills of problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and etc. still hold true 5 years ago. If you'll also notice, the skills of mathematical literacy, language arts, the sciences are not present. Though these skills are also equally important, they are not as emphasized because of the specificity and applicability in only one domain or industry. Rather, there is actually an emphasis and movement from the hard skills to the soft skills. These skills that can be applied in multiple contexts, make use of different strategies, and rather they are not the end all and be all, but can be applied in many, many situations. So if you'll take a moment to look at those different skills right now, you can see that they really focus on the way we think, the way we collaborate, the way we organize ourselves. And these are important as we move on into what's known as the fourth industrial revolution, where there is really an emphasis on automated and machine learning, a focus on artificial intelligence and machine learning, more and rather than the traditional hard skills that we know of. Okay? And so our current educational systems and values should shift from content and factual knowledge to developing students' understanding through concepts and, most importantly, skills again. The goal of education today is really to make our students lifelong learners, learning that does not just happen within the classroom or within the confines of what we normally or hold or traditionally call our classroom, but rather learning that can happen at any moment and at any time. And once we give our students the necessary skills to survive, then or to apply these, then they will become lifelong learners. They will see this as an opportunity really to apply themselves in any way possible. So to start off, I'd like to share with you what the International Baccalaureate Organization created. They made use of different research from educational institutions, those by IB World Schools, and many of their educational researchers to create this pedagogical framework designed to inform teaching and learning. These are known as the approaches to teaching, which have six pedagogical underpinnings, and the approaches to learning, or the ATLs. So looking at these two, what then is the implication of this? In our school systems, we already know what to teach. This is seen in our curriculum and also the syllabi that we make. It is the roadmap of our learning. However, since we already know what we are going to teach, the question there is, how are we going to teach it? And the ATLs and the ATTs, or the approaches to teaching and learning, inform us on how we are going to teach our students. So with these in mind, let's take a look first at the approaches to teaching. To prepare our students for learning in the 21st century, we teachers also need to rethink our approach to teaching. Alec Peterson, the first head of the International Baccalaureate back in the 1960s, said it best. It's really learning how to learn, and not just regurgitating or absorbing facts, but rather developing ways of thinking that can be applied in multiple contexts and situations. So it is important for us to really think about how are we going to prepare our students for life after school, and also preparing them to ensure that they are lifelong learners and successful as well. So he advocated, and also the International Baccalaureate advocates, that learning in the 21st century should be constructivist, experiential, and student-centered, with an emphasis on learning connections across different subject disciplines and concurrency of learning. What that means is that when we have concurrency of learning, the progression from the simple to the complex, our students will be able to see those connections and make meaningful learning and demonstrate their understanding, because we have created an environment that allows them to freely express themselves and really emphasize what is important. And so to begin, we start off with our approach to teaching that should be based on inquiry. If you have attended many of the sessions in the past, we've had teacher Iris talk about inquiry learning. We've had the teacher Rachel talk about the importance of different self-management skills. With an inquiry-based approach, we advocate this because we believe the power of student questions, those questions that really drive our lessons. And when we advocate for an inquiry-based learning, we promote those questions and set challenges and learning opportunities for our students in order for them to freely explore the concept, not the content that we are learning. And we provide those opportunities through application, experimentation, and research. Hand in hand with inquiry-based learning is that we have to focus more on conceptual understanding. This is actually one of my favorite pictures when it comes to conceptual understanding, where you have a dinosaur thinking whether they are universal and timeless, and his counterpart is telling him, are we a concept or are we a topic? And so with a focus on conceptual understanding, there is that emphasis on big ideas and enduring understandings that we sometimes, or sorry, myself, sometimes I take it for granted, but it's something that we have to really be conscious about. When we focus on conceptual understanding, we are able to organize our thoughts, our plans, and our ideas to really develop higher order thinking. And in turn, this leads to transfer of learning for our students. Now more so than ever, with the whole, with everything globalized and everybody connected, it's important that we still emphasize the development of local and global contexts. Because when we establish that view of our students, They will be able to integrate multiple perspectives. They'll be able to see the connections of what they're learning within themselves, the community, the country, the region, and also the world. And so we have to provide those contexts and connections for students in order for them to understand the implications of the concepts that they're learning as they progress and move from one grade level to the next. Because as I said earlier on, it's really important that we develop skills and also an approach to teaching that starts with the simple and goes all the way to the complex. Hand in hand with everything that is working on, that we are working on, is an emphasis on collaboration. Vygotsky and Piaget saw learning as a social phenomenon, and we have to consciously give students opportunities to collaborate. And these are activities that could involve debate, projects, role plays that develop students' social skills such as negotiation and collaborative learning. In addition to fostering collaboration between students, collaboration is also at the heart of the relationship between teachers and students. In a research done by McWilliam in 2005 and 2008, he argues that there is a shift from the role of the teacher of being the sage on the stage to the guide on the side. But this shift does not go far enough, and there needs actually to be a further shift to the role of the teacher being the meddler in the middle. So we have to remove ourselves from being at the center of the attention and giving that attention to our students, because it is our students that will be able to drive the importance of learning. They will be able to share with us what they understood and demonstrate what they've actually done in our different units. Now more so than ever, there is an importance in making our classroom environment inclusive and accessible for everybody. Tomlinson and Allen advocate planning for student differences. They like to identify the process by which learning can happen through effective strategies for achieving appropriate personal goals. As a result, we must have thoughtful and deliberate as well as adaptive planning. Now we can utilize the principles of the universal design for learning in order to support all our students with different learning needs and capabilities. Because learning in the 21st century should not have a one-size-fits-all approach, but should have an approach that is inclusive and accessible for any kind of student. And so we go back to what I had flashed earlier on. By being mindful of our approach to teaching, we can focus more on developing the skills of students through explicit and implicit learning engagements and opportunities. By being mindful of our approach to teaching, we would be able to help our students develop these skills instead of worrying about the content and worrying about the standards, though that is also just as equally important. We have to give our students really the skills in order for them to continue on, to give them the tools that would help them grow as a learner. And so with the approaches to teaching in mind, let's now take a look at the approaches to learning. The approaches to learning are deliberate strategies and skills that permeate both teaching and learning. That means it is everywhere, and that we have to be mindful of what skills that we're going to be presenting to our students, what skills are needed in the lessons that we're going to be doing, and what skills our students need in order for them to be successful. Jerome Bruner, in The Process of Education, once said that learning should not only take us somewhere, but rather it should allow us later to go further more easily. And with a focus on the approaches to learning, the focus on skills, we would help our students go further more easily. And so these are the different approaches to learning. We have thinking skills and communication skills. Later on, I'll present the other three. So these are the different skills that we need to develop in our students. Within these skills are subsets of skills that develop within. And so you can see that in thinking skills, it's important that we develop their critical thinking, creative thinking, but more often than not, or more importantly, we should also develop their reflection and metacognition. More often than not, we forget that reflection also plays a key and vital role in the learning process because it allows them to step back and take stock of what they learned so far. In terms of the communication skills, it's important for them to know when to exchange information. What avenues of expressing themselves would they be able to reach or help other people understand as well? And now more so than ever, then emphasis on information, communication, and technology. How are we getting our students to learn how to use computers and different applications responsibly? How can we also get them to speak responsibly as well? And here are the other three skills: social skills, self-management, and research skills. Within our own subjects, we also need to map out how these skills look like horizontally within the same grade levels and vertically across all levels from K to 12. When we really think about how we're doing this horizontal and vertical collaboration, then we will be able to help our students or equip our students as they move from one grade level to the next with with ease of complexity. So there must be careful consideration of when these skills are introduced and what they look like also developmentally. So looking at those different skills, we have positive interpersonal and collaboration skills, social-emotional development, states of mind, information and media literacy, and ethical use of media information. In a webinar and also professional development session done by Lance King, he did work with the International Baccalaureate to come up with these different skill clusters. And within these skill clusters, they have these very direct or specific skills that are needed to be developed. And within those ATLs, we must ask ourselves, when do we introduce those to the students? How do we ensure our students have opportunities to learn these skills? What engagements can lead to the development and then application of our students? So in that workshop with Lance King, he made all the teachers, and which is something that is also equally important. He made the teachers really mindfully plan when are we going to introduce these skills to the students? What learning engagement can help them actually demonstrate these skills, or when can we introduce it to them? And so as they move on from one grade level to the next, how can we level up or make this skill that they learned even more complex? And there's a whole lot of sub skills within these ATLs that are all over that are in Lance King's website, which you can also take a look at later on. Okay. And so with that in mind, we can see that by utilizing the approaches to learning and the approaches to teaching, there is a clear overlap between the two. One cannot function without the other. We cannot also develop the skills of our students if we are also not mindful of how we're going to teach. And so it is with this in mind that through the adoption of an approaches to teaching and approaches to learning and all that we've learned, we can be able to develop our students for lifelong learning. So the question that would definitely come up in all of this is this: how do we teach these skills? Well, First off, we can do explicit teaching, specifically teaching the skills within or outside of subject-based lessons. We could design subjects around different skills and processes, and within our own lessons, we provide them opportunities for constant practice. Outside of other than explicit teaching, we can also do it implicitly by teaching skills by using them with subject content in normal subject lessons. Okay. And so we go back to the first question, or the question that I had asked earlier on. Are we teachers of content or teachers of skills? Because if we are teachers of skills, then we encourage ourselves to be teachers of learning and teachers of concepts and skills. When we are those, we are able to create different strategies to develop learning and to help engage our students in meaningful inquiries, critical and creative thinking, and also the skills for developing them to become lifelong learners as well. So here are some of the resources that I use. And I say thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. And I hope that you learned a lot.